My son entered my room while I was asleep, but then I suddenly... 5 years had passed since my divorce, and at 43, I found myself spending each of those nights in solitude. That tranquility was fleeting. A gentle rap on the door disrupted the stillness. I opened my eyes and sat up, a feeling of unease washing over me. "Adrian," I called out, "Mother." The bed creaked under his weight, and we lay side by side, only a few inches apart. His warmth was immediately apparent. I attempted to avert my gaze. Yet I found myself unable to ignore the fact that he had outgrown his childhood. He had matured into a young man. His features were more defined, his shoulders more robust. And the realization left me feeling a mix of embarrassment and confusion. "Mom," he whispered. He turned his face towards me. At times, I experience a profound sense of solitude within these walls. Yet what astonished me most was the realization that I was embracing him in return. A strange flutter stirred in my chest. His face moved even closer to mine, his breath brushing against my skin. "Sometimes it's just too much," he murmured quietly. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm always here." But inside, I wasn't at peace. My heart raced, and I couldn't understand why his closeness felt so overwhelming. Though his actions seemed innocent, his hug was tighter than I expected, his warmth closer than I anticipated. "Thank you, Mom." The first rays of sunlight touched his face, and I found myself staring at him. He still looked innocent, but inside, I felt tangled up. I rested my head back on the pillow, taking a deep breath. I needed time to understand what had happened the previous night, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just another night. As the sunlight slowly filled the room, seeking a moment of solitude, and wishing to prepare something without interrupting him, Adrian typically lingered in slumber. Yet today I sought something to soothe the restlessness stirring within me. I started collecting the ingredients for pancakes, and just a few minutes later, Adrian stirred awake. I glimpsed him lurking behind the door, his eyes barely open. "Morning," he said, his voice carrying an unusual weight, a blend of exhaustion and caution. "Good morning, sweetheart," I said, doing my utmost to seem composed as I turned the pancakes. I sensed his gaze upon me, yet there was an unmistakable difference in the air. His typical apathy had vanished. Yet the increasing unease within me was equally tangible. Adrian's gaze, reminiscent of the previous night, was fixed on me, yet this time it carried an extraordinary intensity. I observed that his gaze extended beyond just me. They were observing me, mapping my form, and I could sense it. I attempted to brush it off, yet I could feel that he had picked up on my unease, though their meaning eluded me. I set the pancakes on a plate and offered them to him. "Enjoy," I said, my voice carrying a hint of melancholy. As Adrian grasped the plate, his fingers wrapped around it for just an instant, and our gazes locked in a transient connection. It seemed as though he was attempting to uncover something more profound within me. He took a seat at the table in silence. At breakfast, he never met my gaze directly, yet with every movement I made, his eyes would dart back to me, holding that peculiar intensity each time. Yet the warmth and unease I experienced were anything but ordinary. As night drew near, a heaviness began to settle in my eyelids, yet an unsettling sensation lingered, hinting that something had changed. the solitude in my room weighed down on me, but there was an unmistakable shift in the air. Adrian's behavior had transformed. Reminiscent of the night before, though this time it held a distinct quality, his eyes, his demeanor, the way he moved closer, it all held significance. He advanced another step, drawing nearer. The sole illumination in the room, the moonlight, revealed his face with greater clarity. His eyes held a level of determination I had never witnessed before. Deep down, a voice within urged me to halt. This was not what a mother anticipates from her child, and in that instant, my heart raced with fervor. I swiftly drew back, gasping for air. "No, stop," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Adrian withdrew, his gaze reflecting a hint of disappointment, yet he remained silent, simply standing tall in the room. "Adrian, this doesn't feel correct. Please don't do this," I urged. His silence deepening the stillness in the room. Then, once more, he drew nearer and pressed his lips against mine. His hands glided from my neck to my waist, and then to my hips. No matter how much I urged myself to refrain, I found it impossible to resist. That night, whatever transpired, had transpired. The following morning, I found myself waking up alone in the room, grappling with my inner turmoil, yet the one certainty I held was the need to comprehend the events that had unfolded. I pondered my emotions, yet with each fleeting moment. Yet I stepped out of the house in silence. In my efforts to conceal the events that transpired between Adrian and me, I found myself grappling with confusion, striving to keep my feelings at bay, yet a part of me was shattering. I pondered deeply. What was it that made me feel so bewildered? Amidst the turmoil, I found myself adrift. My son had outgrown his childhood. Yet was I still perceiving him as a child? Was I deceiving myself? What was I meant to do? The questions danced in my thoughts, yet they lingered without resolution.